Call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. So, to be added to.
No. Oops.
Anybody else have anything to add to it? All in favor? Public forum. Anyone has a matter they'd like to take up with the board at this point in time that's not already slated to be discussed on our agenda? That'll be the time.
Would you like me to read Jack Reed's letter into the record?
I'm thinking we ought to hold that until we get down to item K.
Perfect.
Mr. Dawes and Superintendent Dawes.
Will do.
Letter regarding that revolving fund and the checks. Comments on the record. Yes, Ms. Law.
I was just going to talk to Jack's letter that you'll hear. What he's doing is asking the Board of Selectmen to officially give a thumbs up on the question of the 1.3 million through the state. I think it got confused a lot with the 75 million, or I don't know, and it's going to come up again. But to my way of thinking, if we think as a whole we're going to be spending at least 1.3 million, no matter what, which seems fairly reasonable, that we'll be spending at least that much, that we at least get that money interest-free and a certain portion of it as a grant. So it seems like a no-brainer to me, as long as we think that whenever we decide on the capital budget, it's going to be at least 1.3 million. Why not at least get that portion that won't come and affect the taxpayers? So I guess I'm asking also that you would consider putting a yes recommendation, I guess is the term. And I think probably the best way, I guess the way we usually do that, Simone, or you usually do it, is put it in the arrow or something that says you approve. That's my
Okay.
request.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public forum section of our agenda and move on to the minutes of 4/28, 2014.
I move we accept as written. Second.
All in favor? Laundry list of committee and board reports.
Somebody at the last meeting had to say we don't have many committee and board reports, so I figured we'd add a few here. Tomorrow night, the Economic Development Committee will meet here in the library at 6 p.m. The comprehensive plan will have a public hearing on Thursday, May 15th, this Thursday, 7 p.m. here in the library to hear comments and give information on the comp plan changes coming before town meeting on June 11th. RSU 21 budget meeting will be Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m. at the Kennebunk Elementary School, which is located on the Alwy Road, also known as Route 35. In your packet, you will see information in regards to that agenda item, the allocation of the budget as proposed by the RSU School Board. Selectman DuBois, do you want to do your updates at the end or as I go?
Yeah.
Okay. Maine Department of Transportation will have a public hearing next Wednesday, May 21st at 6 p.m. here in the library. They'll be discussing and receiving input on the Hill Road Route 111 intersection improvements. Just an update once again that those improvements at this point potentially include a turning lane off of Route 111 as well as signalizing that intersection. Once again, that meeting will be at 6 p.m. and DOT will be here to answer any questions. In your packet, you also have the contact information for Mr. Ernest Martin. He's the project manager, and he's taking comments and questions as well. His phone number is listed on that public hearing notice. Planning board will meet Thursday, May 22nd, that's this Thursday at 7 PM in the ML Day School Library. They will also be holding a public hearing in regards to the land use ordinance changes that will be coming before the voters of the town of Arundel at town meeting on June 11th. That is all, the public are welcome to attend for comments and for clarification on that matter. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, May 26th in observance of Memorial Day holiday, and the Board of Selectmen will meet on Tuesday, May 27th at 7 PM here in the library. Selectman DuBois has some updates for us.
So I attended the last school board meeting. Items of significance was second reading for the fixture year 2014-2015 budget. They had a long discussion from the first reading. There really wasn't that many changes. It's only one teacher now, I guess, that they're cutting, and that teacher will be for the industrial technologies course. There was some discussion on how many students that was going to affect. The other change is, if you recall, I had talked about them taking a DLC program away from consolidated school. They're going to phase that out, so they're going to keep that there, and as new students come in, those new students will be heading over to the middle school in Kennebunk. So the older students that are there, they'll kind of keep them along with all the kids. Let's see. Committee reports. They're still waiting from Harriman for some adjustments. They'll have all the reports ready for July 7th. And the other item was a curriculum design team. A discussion that on May 22nd at the Kennebunk Free Library, any incoming kindergarten students are invited to attend. This is from all three towns. Invited to attend to talk about learning and education. That's going to be at 4:30 p.m. Parents, kids, they kind of want any of the incoming folks to come in and discuss about that. Communication from the superintendent. They've got a new scholarship. There's the Jacob Gould Scholarship for students with disabilities. And they talked a little bit about the revolving renovation funds that they're sending a letter to all the town managers. Superintendent update. They are reviewing the candidates. And let's see, that's all I got for the RSU. Planning board meeting. So they had two public hearings on a planning board. First one was AIM Recycling and Kate's Butter. As usual with the public hearings, there were no comments from anybody out on the floor. The pending applications, the AIM Recycling, they approved that one. Kate's Butter, there was an issue with Kate's Butter that they weren't supposed to get a building permit until their landscaping is complete. A bunch of things happened, and somehow they got their permit. So what they decided to do is they approved it, but they put a condition in the approval that landscaping's got to be done before winter months. Give them some time to put that landscaping in there. Lovejoy subdivision came in with a sketch plan. They talked about making a 6-lot cluster subdivision, and apparently there's quite a bit of wetlands in that area, so they're looking at some pretty small lots, but it's all within a cluster subdivision rules. The discussion on fire protection, they want to make sure that the fire chief gets involved with that. And they're also going to add to the application, they're going to add a line item or a checkbox that the fire chief has been involved, or no, where the nearest fire hydrant is on something like this. So, because there's always a question on how close is the nearest fire hydrant, so they're going to add that item to the application now, so that the applicants have to put that in. Where's Motor Sales came in to, they proposed to eliminate all of the approved landscaping in their buffer. What Ben wanted to do is, Ben wanted to put artificial turf. He wanted to put a strip of artificial turf. And there was a very lengthy discussion on that. I guess the board pretty much struggled how to handle this for quite some time, and Phil, feel free to add any of this when I get done, because Phil was there also. The bottom line is they decided just to continue on with the plan as was presented or as was approved. Planners report, you talked about the comprehensive plan, public hearing on the 15th. All the ordinance changes are complete, public hearing on the 22nd. There was also just a quick discussion on ex parte communication. Wanted to make sure that the board is aware of that and that they stay away from any of that. And the only other thing was public comment. Mr. Fritz brought up an issue on his property. There was an agreement years ago when his property was put in the BI district. There was an agreement that eventually that was going to get taken out. And there's some concern with the DB1, DB2 zones, so he's going to get with Tad. Not sure that they can make some changes before the voting, but they're going to try to see what they can do. That's it.
I will add, just to add a little comment to what Ann just said, there's an alleged agreement that Ann has been, she's scouring now minutes of workshop meetings that we might have, minutes of actual meetings that may have happened, to try to find out exactly where that discussion, they pinpointed that, I believe, to sometime in 2006, and we're trying to locate if that was actually a motion made by the planning board or something that was related to Mr. Fritz that may not have made it to the board. So
I specifically remember the conversation. I was on the board at the time,
yeah.
and I don't think there was any motion. I think it was just a discussion. You know, he had, back then, he had a junk permit from the state, and the only reason that he had that permit is because he was selling tires. For him to sell rims and tires, he had to have a junk permit. And when it got changed to the BI district, I can't exactly remember what it was, but somehow that use was taken away. I mean, he could still have it because he was grandfathered, but now that his permit is expired, you know, he can't redo that, but it's not allowed in that zone. So they're trying to figure out how to get that squared away. So,
but once he he's the one that requested not to renew his junkyard permit. And I thought we had something in land use of not allowing any new junkyards in town. So whether he's in a district that allows it or not, I didn't think we allowed any junkyards.
well, if he's in a district that allows it, he can't stop.
Right, I didn't think any of our districts allowed new junkyards. And I know there's state statutes too for new junkyards as far as, I don't know if they're allowed any.
I have to look, but I think there are still a couple of areas of junkyard, a couple of zones where junkyards are. But he was supposed to get with Tad sometime this week. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but just to kind of go over and make sure that we don't miss something.
Okay, moving on into new business, we're to review and consider the approval of the 2014 town meeting warrant for publication in the town report book, although this is just a draft, is that what we're being told?
This is a ceremonial, I guess this is for publication in the town report book. I will bring before you at the meeting on the 27th the actual warrant that has the appendices that go with the proper agenda articles for the warrant for signatures. But every year we print town report book before the warrant gets signed, and so we're hoping to do just that tonight. I will just bring a few things to your attention that there'll be minor changes. If I can hear back from Tad before Cindy mails these to the printer. On Article 5, amendments to the comprehensive plan, I'm trying to determine from Tad whether or not the planning board recommended adoption on that. I don't believe it's not a matter of pressing importance, but that's something that may change. Agenda item Article number 6. I do believe that there will be a planning board recommendation on that, but I couldn't confirm that with Tad prior to producing this document and sending it to you. I didn't want to have a planning board recommendation on there without confirming that. And other than that, I believe the remainder of the articles will remain the same. All of the financial articles have been provided to you during the budget process, and none there have changed. And the housekeeping business as well are the statutorily required interest rates and due dates for taxes and things like that. If there are any changes, if you saw anything that was a glaring error that you noticed, please bring it to my attention now. As I said, the official warrant will be the warrant that will be acted upon at town meeting, so if there are any changes subsequent to the publication of this, this is not the official warrant.
Anybody see anything that jumped out?
Article 22. Last year, wasn't it 15,000?
Mhm.
And we raised it 12 this year.
Good call.
Last year wasn't 15?
No, last year was 12,
We
this
kept
year
it-
they asked for 15.
Right, they asked, right.
But the board said 12.
On Article 39, is that supposed to be 2014 or is that supposed to be 2015?
That is supposed to be 15.
No.
No, it's, yeah.
It's because it's what's
Assessed as,
April 1st this year, and then
Right.
the fiscal year will fall the next time.
All right.
We've
I
read it
saw
so
the-
many times, I just assume somebody else is gonna
yeah,
get
I saw
something
the
wrong
15
here.
up there and I thought,
The assessment is as of this April, and then it all gets up in the fall.
I read the whole thing.
We did move the due dates instead of the 10th to the 8th, so that if they fall on a Wednesday and not on a Friday, and, you know, especially with the Columbus Day holiday and all that, you know.
Okay.
Motion to approve, please, the publication at least, if you will. Ceremonial.
So moved.
Ceremoniously.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Next, authorize the town manager to sign a one-year contract contract extension with David Sand and Gravel for paving for fiscal year 2014-2015.
And per the town meeting warrant, we're allowed to enter into contracts up to 5 years. This will be the 4th year of renewal on the Dayton Sand and Gravel contract. In front of you, I've put the escalator clause for that. I believe, Tom, it's on top of the, it was right on top of the.
Okay, yeah, right.
That just, I failed to copy that one. That's the escalator in case the price of liquid asphalt goes up past a certain point. We will be charged for that. But other than that, there's no increase in the price with Dayton. Roger recommends that this be approved, and the work that they've done for us has been very satisfactory, above satisfactory. They do a great job, and they're very responsive to our needs.
A motion to accept Dayton Sand.
Second.
Okay, motion is made to approve the contract extension for 2014-2015. All in favor?
And for the town manager to sign that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, next is to authorize the town manager to sign a one-year contract extension with Pine Tree Waste Services for operation of the town transfer station for the 2014-15 fiscal year.
Once again, per the town meeting warrant, we're allowed to go up to 5 years. This will be the 4th year, 3rd renewal of the contract, so the 4th consecutive year with Pine Tree Waste. The complaints that come to my attention are few and far between, and to my knowledge, they're addressed pretty quickly. I think we are getting a fair price here in Arundel, speaking of other communities and what they pay for solid waste. I think Pine Tree is serving us well, so I would recommend that we extend this contract.
Make a motion, give you authorization to sign the contract with Pine Tree Waste for 1 year.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion, questions? All in favor? Okay, the next item is an authorization to expend $6,126.83 from the fire department capital equipment account for purchase of a thermal imaging camera as proposed in the 2013-14 budget.
This is an item that was discussed last budget season. The purchase has just come through. I haven't seen it used yet. I hope it can see hotspots from miles away. I personally, I guess either it slipped my mind or I was just surprised when I saw the price of a thermal imaging camera. But it is something that they do use that can be quite helpful in fire situations. And from my understanding, even if there were missing persons in the woods or something like that looking for any kind of heat, this is the type of equipment we need. It replaces the old camera, which Selectman Neto may know better than I. How old do you think that camera is that we have now?
10 years anyway.
Yeah, and I've seen the difference between the new ones and the old ones, and it's night and day. No pun intended, so.
Just a curious question. How far does one of them imaging cameras reach out?
Do you have any idea, Jason?
Just curious.
25 to 30 feet?
Yeah.
I make a motion authorizing you to expend $6,126.83 from the fire department capital equipment account for purchase of a thermal imaging
I'll second that.
camera. As proposed.
Nick? Yeah.
2013 budget.
Any further questions? All in favor then? Very good. Item E is consideration of award of bids for foreclosed property.
I was going to compile them, but we had one bid for one of the properties. Deb and Norman Cloutier bid $5,010 on the mobile home located on 4 Katy Lane in Shady Oaks Mobile Home Park. I would recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they award that bid to Norman and Deborah Cloutier for $5,010. And I am looking at other options for the mobile home that's located in the Pines Mobile Home Park that there were no bids on, as well as that vacant property on Route 1. They do a little bit more homework on that. I think we'll turn it over to the inhabitants of the town of Arundel for the time being until we can find a way to market that property and possibly get a better return than the $35,000. Those were both advertised in the papers, as well as maybe municipal and other locations, and that's the only property that received the bid. So I would recommend awarding that bid to Norman Deb Cloutier. Once they're paid for that, we'll come back to the next meeting with a quick claim deed and all the information and paperwork.
So moved.
It's a full sales.
Second?
Yeah. Motion been made and second to approve the Cloutier bid. All in favor? I can accuse myself of conflict. Okay, next item is to receive some information regarding potential legal fees associated with the Arundel Seasonal Cottage TIF.
Yes, I just wanted the Board of Selectmen to be aware of, as we went through the CMP TIF, I was surprised as to the costs associated with that application. This application will run in the same range between $6,000 and $7,000 for the initial review of the documents that you got in your packet. Credit enhancement agreement will not be negotiated until after we know whether or not the town has agreed to move forward with this TIF application. And in the findings of fact included with the application, it will include language that authorizes the Board of Selectmen to enter into a credit enhancement agreement with the developer for that property. That credit enhancement agreement can't change any of the financial numbers that have been provided, the 75% capture, 67% going to the developer, 33% coming back to the town. None of that can change. It just spells out what we've discussed in the past pertaining to the duration of the project, the quickness of some of the breakpoints that the town's looking for, as well as what percentage will go back to the developer. That'll be another $4,000 to $5,000. I was surprised to find that. You anticipate between $13,000 to $20,000 total in legal fees. I think with the developers, consultants working with us, and we have a very good base for the application to the state of Maine, that we will come in well below the $20,000 figure, keeping in mind that these funds will be reimbursable once there is value gained into that project. We'll be able to reimburse the municipal contingency account for the funds that we expend on both of those steps.
Questions?
What's the chances of getting the developer to to take part of this?
I tried that,
half of it?
he wasn't willing to do that. Maybe if I put a little bit more pressure on him, he would be willing to do it, but initially he balked at the idea, because after I got this email from Shanna, the first thing I did was call Joe and say, are you interested? He called his developers. Jim, who's his consultant, called me back and said that those costs seem a bit inflated, because typically they'll have nothing to start with, and none of the credit enhancement negotiations have gone through. We're quite a bit ahead of the game in that, but Joe was not interested. He said that his investment team was not interested in paying for the legal fees on the town's end, because they will have their own legal fees on their end to review what we present to the city.
And those are reimbursable to us once we get some funds in that account.
That's correct.
Did you say you wouldn't pay all of them, or wouldn't
Wouldn't
pay
pay.
any of them? No portion?
No
Not
portion.
even on the same percentage basis that
The
the agreement calls for this?
Any and all calls for reimbursement were declined.
Well,
So unless there's a resounding majority of the board that says do not move forward because of these legal fees, we will be moving forward with this as presented in the town report. And there will be a subsequent warrant and more discussion later on in the agenda.
Is there something we could put in writing to say, all right, we cover you up front. If you back out of this development, can you reimburse us half of?
I could attempt to do that.
There's no other way to have him,
Right.
I mean, what's to say he can't back out of this when we've already paid this
Yeah.
up front?
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely bring that to his attention and see if we can get something written in there. Talk to Shannon about that.
any thoughts, folks?
I don't think we want to go into this without legal work being done. That's all not.
No, this one is not as pressing, the deadline isn't as pressing as the CMP tip was, so Tad and I will do presentation to the state, things that can save us some money, but there will be a cursory review by the attorneys to make sure that the language of the application meets statutory requirements.
So with that being said, do we need to vote on this tonight?
It would be nice to get a vote of confidence in moving forward, knowing what these legal fees, not my fear against the board, I just don't want to turn around, bring the legal bills to the board and then have them not paid for. Nobody's changing membership this year, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. But a motion to proceed as we've been discussing would be appreciated.
Make that a motion.
I'll second.
So motion's been made and seconded to engage the services of Bernstein Shore pursuant to the memo here. Estimated legal fees between 10 and 15, and another 3 to 5 in the event that they get involved in the credit enhancement agreement as well, without any reimbursement from the developer anticipated. What do you want to do with Jason's suggestion about it?
I can propose that to Joe, and we'll sign the warrant on Tuesday night, the 27th. I can have that information back to you by then.
I'm just, if in fact he says no to that, what's your position on that? It's your legal fees regardless.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the catch-22 where we're at right now, is we expend 10 to 15,000, which I don't believe will be that high of a number. But let's say we spend 15,000, we go to town meeting, and town meeting votes no. That is not a reimbursable expense, so that will come out of the municipal reserve and it won't be reimbursed. And that's the risk that we're taking with moving forward on the application without financial assistance from the developer.
Same risk we took with CMP.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime we do a tip,
There
we're
is a
going
risk.
to have that same risk. And even though this one is a much more complex and a much larger tip, So
The
we
CMP
still
was
need-
already there.
Yeah.
Their development was done,
Yeah.
essentially. This is still raw land.
Yeah.
Yep, and it will remain raw land for quite some time, I believe, if
Right.
it does not come through.
Yeah.
$747,000 versus $60 million.
Potential. So,
It seems foolish that he wouldn't agree, I mean, to put $6,000 in escrow or something to say, hey,
Yeah,
if I back out of this, here's my what do they have tied up already, like $250,000 and
something to that effect, yes. Yep, I'll make that recommendation to Joe, and I'll have an answer for you by the next meeting. Probably before the next meeting, but we'll discuss it.
if you go forward, here's your 6,000,
Yep,
you know?
absolutely.
okay, so we have that motion on the floor at this point in time, made and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor of moving forward on that basis, then? Okay, then item G is Selectmen's final recommendation on seasonal college TIF district and development plan.
And the only reason I bring this to your attention is at the last meeting, there was some discussion about the development plan. If the board wanted to make any changes to that, this is the time to do it, because after this meeting, it's going to go to Bernstein Sure. It will be reviewed and submitted to town meeting in the warrant as we have it. We've got some areas that we still need filled in, but my major question was the development plan, because there may or may not have been some concerns on the priority order or adding or eliminating any of these items. And if you go to page 11 of the packet that I put on your desk, it's the sanitary sewer construction, the Route 1 sidewalks, municipal village business park, revolving business loan program, economic development and marketing program, development director, and the natural gas pressure reduction station, keeping in mind that all of these projects won't be completed with the funding we'll receive from the TIF, but this gives us the ability to begin and complete any of these that the board sees fit as we move forward. Anytime we have to go to bonding, we have to go to town meeting, we have to get permission from the inhabitants of the town of Arundel. They're the legislative body that has to provide permission to move forward with any of the bonding projects. But this gives us the ability to have a broader base than just, say, picking one sanitary sewer and then not being able to move forward with something like that.
Like my understanding from our last discussion, that this list is not locked.
No, we can go back, we have to
We can
come.
amend it, we
we
can,
most
if there's
certainly
nothing,
can.
something that came up to fit the definition or fit the criteria, we could, so.
Most certainly.
Might as well
Go with it.
Yeah, my only comment is, people are gonna look at this and they're gonna see, hey, you guys are going after, sanitary, a sewer and sidewalks, and that may not really be our order.
Right, no,
priority.
no,
So,
absolutely.
I don't want people to think the wrong thing that we're going after this priority. At least
I may be able to eliminate priority altogether and just have these items. Let me verify that with Shannon, so that
Yeah.
nobody thinks, we get a few $100,000 and decide we could get some additional businesses by starting the revolving loan program. Well, that's priority 4, that wasn't.
Yeah, it seems to me that ought to be the first priority that we do with this money. That's my opinion.
Let me see if they have to be prioritized.
And that almost seems like something that's doable.
So,
Right. There's a lot of what-ifs involved in a lot of those other projects.
it's a way to get somebody in here right now, right? Get some businesses here or help businesses out.
Absolutely.
All right, okay. Move on from that at this point, I guess.
You don't need a motion for us on that, are you all set with that?
I'm all set with that, unless there had been something substantive.
Okay, now, Selectmen consider a date of public hearing for the Arundel Seasonal College TIF District Development Plan. Suggestions are June 9th at the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting, or June 11th prior to the annual town meeting. Which is similar to what we did with CMP. TIF for the public hearing and immediately thereafter town meeting vote, special town meeting vote.
This, if I may,
Go.
this time I would personally recommend that the public hearing be held on June 9th. In the interest of, there's quite a bit that'll be on the town meeting warrant. I would recommend holding the public hearing on June 9th, answering any questions that'll be publicized in the Arrow that'll be coming out end of this week, beginning of next week, and hold the vote at town meeting. If there are any brief questions, everybody will have had the basic conversation at the public hearing just 2 nights before. If people are strongly interested in the project, they can come out and take the time to vet their questions and get answers from ourselves, Tad, the attorney, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. It just becomes a little bit cumbersome having the public hearing within town meeting because there does have to be an officially noticed public hearing. So we would have to almost, as Tom had suggested, possibly start town meeting at 6 p.m. with a selectmen's meeting, hold the public hearing at 6 p.m. with town meeting to follow, but we don't know how long that public hearing would last. So I think in the interest of time, in the interest of scheduling things, the easiest way to do it would be to hold it on June 9th. The risk there is that you'll have people that show up to town meeting that weren't at the public hearing, but I think at that point, the majority of the questions should be able to be answered rather quickly to members of the public that may have questions. And there is a selectmen's meeting scheduled for that evening.
Makes sense to me.
My point was, I thought we don't have to have a selectmen's meeting, just have the public hearing at
Right.
6.
Yeah.
And that's all, we just open up public hearing. Everybody would presumably be there, rather than get people out on 2 nights, the same week, are they gonna come out or not? I mean, the public hearing, all the questions are answered. Once you get to the warrant article, I don't think there's gonna be any further discussion at that point in time. If the public hearing only takes a half hour, or a half hour early for town meeting, so what? But I'm not wedded to that. It's
No,
just that would be an efficient way to get everybody out, get the questions answered, then we're
It's
not
a
gonna
night that
spend.
we've already got committed, so.
What's that?
It's a night that we've already committed, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, the town meeting, anyway.
yeah.
But, that makes legitimate arguments to do it in two phases.
Just need a motion on which date, either way is going to work perfectly fine. Tom does have a point that you've already got people coming out on the 11th. They may show up early and, want to do that on the same evening.
I'll make a motion, we have this public hearing on the 11th.
For 2 nights typically?
Typically, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of,
Yeah.
I mean, this may generate a lot of interest, I don't know.
Ninth is
But
regular Monday.
I would assume generate a lot of questions.
The 11th is the annual town meeting.
You want on the night?
6 o'clock.
That's 6
Yeah,
o'clock.
motion for the 11th at 6 o'clock.
Public hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any further discussion, comments? All in favor? Next is first to review and consider changes to the Arundel parking ordinance in the vicinity of the Eastern Trail.
And in your packet, you'll find, it's titled Town of Arundel Proposed Revisions 2 at this point in time. Regulated areas under Article 1, you will find underlined, beginning 25 feet northeasterly of the intersection of the Eastern Trail to a point 150 feet southeasterly of the intersection of the Eastern Trail. It should both say southeasterly, I apologize for that. So it should say, beginning 25 feet southeasterly of the intersection of the Eastern Trail to a point 150 feet southeasterly of the intersection of the Eastern Trail, parallel parking shall only be allowed in designated parking areas on the westerly side of Glenwick Road. That was the cleanest way to add that language to allow people to park along the Eastern Trail. Roger went out, verified the compass points, measured the distances from the Eastern Trail, and I will take any suggestions on the language, and if that, in fact, is acceptable, then we'll move forward to other items in regards to this as well.
So that will be Article 1.
That will be actually voted on at the meeting on May 27th.
No, I meant when you're reading this, it says
Oh, yes,
there
yes.
shall be no parking, so
That-
that's gonna be gone, and it's gonna be replaced with beginning.
Nope, that'll still be there. There shall be no parking will still be there because that pertains to the other side of the road as well as the other section. But I kind of went through a bunch of other towns and how they do their special exceptions when they have areas of roads that are prohibited parking along the entirety of the road. And the majority of the towns, at least in the area of Biddeford, Kennebunk, their ordinances specifically reference points of reference outside of the strict prohibition. And there will be marked spots that say parking with the arrows that indicate you can park between these two arrows.
Just a suggestion, I mean, I would begin that by saying either accepting or provided however, okay, because you're making an exception to
Okay.
Yes.
that prohibition, so, because just to jump in and say beginning, but is it, I'm not sure I'm getting the description here.
Okay.
This is Gadboy's
Yeah.
map, I pulled that out.
Yeah.
Where did you begin?
We're beginning right here, at
Okay.
the intersection of the Eastern Trail.
With what?
With what? Parking.
It says beginning at the intersection of the Eastern Trail, it has to intersect with something. No. You gotta,
Eastern Trail and the Limerick Road, you're
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I know what you meant.
Yeah,
Just don't say it.
everybody has to
Yeah.
know what I meant.
But isn't it not?
That's what I'm trying to
It's
figure
on
out.
the north, the other way.
So if you,
South is down towards Camper.
Don't you, only go this
Limerick
way?
Road goes north-south.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trail goes east, I'm sorry.
Western, I didn't agree with Roger with this either, because I'm not really good with my waypoints. He swears that this is the directions that need to be placed on this.
Southeasterly, if you start here, you're going southeast, you're heading in this direction.
North.
It says southeast.
Yeah, but this goes north.
That's the north arrow.
Good point. So north, in a northeasterly direction.
Going this way, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, but that's northerly.
It's northerly or northeasterly, I mean, depending on how.
So we're still west, but we're on the, heading northerly.
Right.
So maybe Chad take a look at it, maybe Chad can throw in a few.
Roger and I thought about this for a while, 'cause
Paragraph with that.
I don't necessarily agree with what I was told, but I believed it because when I got in my truck that morning and the compass said I was headed the direction Roger said I was, I took that as gospel. So it would be beginning 25 feet northerly was my opinion.
Where do you want to start?
I want to
What's
start
your anticipate?
25 feet from the intersection of the trail here, so that way 25 feet.
Well, here's the roadway though.
Yeah, okay.
So you're gonna be over here,
Over here.
25 feet from the intersection of the Eastern Trail right of way, whatever it might be,
Yeah,
with the sideline, the westerly sideline of the Limerick Road.
that's correct.
Okay, so that point's 25 feet from it, that's your beginning point.
Yes.
And then you're gonna go 150 feet northerly or northeasterly.
I'd say northerly now, looking at
Yeah.
the compass.
And then you go to intersection of the Eastern Trail and parallel parking. I'm not sure, I don't understand that language either.
Which language is
But
that?
then it goes 100, let's say it's supposed to be 150 feet northeasterly or northerly, at the
Northerly.
intersection of the Eastern Trail,
And the
again,
Limerick
with,
Road, with the Limerick Road.
but you're probably doing 175 feet from that if you want 150, because you gotta add the 25.
So we're gonna go beginning 25 feet, according to that, can you read that out, Tom? Northerly of the intersection of the Limerick Road and Eastern Trail.
Probably the Eastern Trail, either right away or easement, whatever they've got there, or the Unitel, what is it, Unitel easement?
Yeah.
But on the western side.
Of the
Right.
northernmost
Northernmost sideline of the Unitel right away. Well, they own the strip. They own that?
They own that entire right of way.
Do they own the fee? I mean, they own the strip itself?
I do believe.
Okay. Okay, so we probably should find out, that's their
Yeah.
property, it's the intersection of the sideline, northerlymost boundary of their Unitel's property. We can reference it as being now used by the Eastern Trail or being used by the Eastern Trail. So you want to stay 25 feet away from that point, is
Yes.
what I'm reading here, right?
Yes.
And then go 150 feet northerly up the westerly sideline. So you start from that 25-foot beginning point and add 150 feet, or you go back to the original beginning point, it's 175 feet. But I would go to the 25-foot beginning point. I mean, if you want to make sure that nobody parks within 25 feet.
Correct.
No point. If you guys want to get the language together with Tad,
Yep.
email it to me and I'll
Okay.
look and have people much more adept
Should
at
you
this
put it
than I
as
am.
Article 1, like A or something?
It ought to be separated out, I mean, as I said,
Yeah.
accepting,
Accepting.
accepting or provided however that
Yeah.
beginning, and then,
Or accepting that.
you know, just some language there that makes it clear.
We will adjust and amend that accordingly.
So you won't be able to hold it on
The board can motion to do it as amended pending Selectman Danwick's review, and I can get that out to him probably midday tomorrow. If the board is so inclined, if not, we'll extend it to, we'll set the public hearing on March 27th for June 9th. May 27th
because this
for
needs,
June 9th.
this needs to be posted in the same day
Yeah.
as a town meeting.
Right.
This is seven days for a public safety ordinance. So it's up to the board either as amended with language approved, or we do this again next meeting.
So can we, as far as the language approved, if you guys figure out what it is and send it out to us, we can take a quick double check and then say it's A-okay, or?
That may be immediate.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Right,
Uh,
yeah.
I don't think you want to do that.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it again, so everybody can see it, when you read it, you may have other suggestions, right, and just like Tad and Todd and Tad, or however this is gonna work.
You need a motion to do anything?
No, I don't think it's-
We need to just do it.
Yeah. We'll just- Okay, next item, we have some tree issues around the town hall and fire station need addressing, apparently.
There we do. Is that the next item we do? Unfortunately, one of the trees, I am told, is a memorial tree. To Simone, the name of the woman is?
That was Eleanor Hines' mother.
Alice.
Alice.
Alice
Hines.
Lee.
But that's the tree that's near the town hall, isn't it?
I think so.
The one that's closest to the town hall.
That tree, I spoke to Al Asselin, he cuts trees, he's not a tree scientist, he said that's not my thing. But if you look at that tree, it's been declining, the health has been declining, it's losing needles, it's not growing back, it's grayed out. That tree is unsightly and would be nice if it could be taken down, possibly to plant a tree of the same style or an ornamental tree in its place, but that tree closest to town hall near the propane tank is just, it's dying. Roger doesn't want to cut it down without the board's authorization to move forward. So that's the first tree to consider. The second tree, unfortunately, is the Christmas tree lighting tree. I don't know if any of you have been to 1/3 of the audience says it is dying. You can stand at the base of the tree, see all the way up through it without any needles. Only about the top 6 feet of that tree is even living. Once again, I didn't really want to spend the $500 to $1,000 to get a tree care specialist to come in and tell us that the tree's dying. You can look at the tree and know that it's just not coming back. It's slowly degrading since it was brought to my attention when I came here. Didn't really dare to bring that to anybody's attention at that point in time. I spoke to Roger about it. We spoke to Jen about it, Tad about it. The tree is just in really bad shape. The thought is that if we cut it down now instead of cutting it down in November, there won't be as much of a outcry, I guess you'd say. Maybe out of sight, out of mind. Theoretically, it's going to hurt. We did plant another replacement Christmas tree at Town Hall about 3 years ago. It's not a huge tree. It started out about 6 feet tall. It's probably 8 feet tall now. It's not going to be a humongous tree. It won't be the spectacle that we have for the tree lighting at this point in time. But eventually that tree needs to go, and it's becoming a safety hazard. Reynolds, even though we use LED lights, says if they were afraid of flying or something, it's just a very sick tree. I'm not a tree guy. Like I said to Alan when he came to see them, said I'm not a tree scientist, but if somebody asked me to cut the tree down, he would cut both of those trees down. And then the third tree is one that's near the generator. It's a scrub pine, not the most decorative looking tree, kind of in the way, and Roger's concern is its proximity to the generator and the root system disrupting something there. But it's a question of the board as to whether or not you're comfortable directing us to remove those trees. Interim for the tree lighting has been discussed, possibly to put a ring in the ground and find somebody who's willing to donate a tree until the one that we have is big enough to use for the tree lighting. My other concern always has been, in the time that I'm here, the location of that Christmas tree at the fire station is, for me, problematic. Kids running around out on that corner. I've seen a few close calls where parents caught their kid just before they were going to run into the road and say, get away from there. It's just, that corner is a little nerve-wracking, at least for me as a parent. The parents who have those kids don't necessarily seem to be concerned, but it could be a liability waiting to happen. So I guess Roger and I are looking for the direction of the board as to what we can do to take care of this issue. I don't know if you've been by Town Hall. I'd welcome you. We don't need to make this decision tonight. I wanted to bring it to your attention. You're welcome to go by Town Hall and view the trees that we're speaking of, but they are just, either it is a ash beetle issue or there seems to be some sort of an insect that's causing these problems in these trees.
The woolly adelgid.
I'm sorry,
The woolly adelgid.
is that what
We
they're?
lost 3. We had an arborist come. We had 3 beautiful firs out behind the house.
Yeah.
And they started with the bottom limbs dying, and I trim them off. And then the next limbs would die, and I trim them off. We tried using, there's something you can use around the roots that will soak into the root system, that will help. Didn't help. If you look at a lot of your fir trees, you'll see that they are dying, and what happens, it looks almost like this green mold growing on the limbs, and it won't get better, it'll just get worse. But please don't cut the tree down until after Memorial Day. Yeah.
Oh, well, about 2 years, not this current year, last year, it started dropping needles more than usual. So Roger came over and they trimmed that tree up about 5 or 6 feet, hoping to be able to save the rest of what was there, and it just didn't work. What was happening, like Donna said, what was happening to the bottom branches is now progressed up to the top branches, and they're both in really rough shape. I don't know how long that spruce, Fraser fir, whatever that is, the Christmas tree at the fire station, I don't believe that was planted when the fire station was remodeled. I believe that tree has been there. And in speaking to Al, I apologize, I didn't ask permission to use his name, but in speaking to him, he said that those trees have typically a 25-year life cycle and they become issues. And so that's what we're dealing with, and I don't have the intestinal fortitude to tell Roger to go ahead and cut him down without bringing it to the board's attention.
Well, unfortunately, the Boy Scouts had, I was telling Todd, they had if you look between the trees right here in front of the school, they actually had paid to have wiring put there. There's a shut-off, there's like a flip box right there to light those trees, because we were going to, do the tree lighting here, but now that it's part of the RSU, they don't want any
Oh, yeah.
Christmas, things happening on the school grounds, because otherwise we could use these trees here, and it would be a lot better parking situation.
And I'm sure that the tree that Eleanor had planted for her mother, that if you talk to Eleanor, that she probably wouldn't, object to the fact that if we take that one down, that we will replace it at the new town hall with a better tree, with even a plaque or something with it, dedicating it to her mother. But I think they've got to come down, because it doesn't get any better. We tried for 3 years. I don't know how much money I put into, there's a special type of insecticide or whatever that you actually can pour around the roots of those trees. And when you get a tree that big, you can imagine how big that root system is, to get that stuff to go up, soak up into the branches to help to kill that, whatever it is. And it didn't work, so we ended up taking down all 3 trees. And they just die, little by little by little. And it almost goes right up through the middle. And just start, as you're driving along the road, start looking at your fir trees and see what's happening to them. It's not
We
pretty.
lost a few at my place.
Oh, yeah? You said a lot of them,
Yeah. But the ones closest to the house, we lost 2 or 3
Yeah.
in the last 5 years.
I had 6 or 7 in my house, same thing, we ended up cutting them all down because it just progresses quickly.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
just look-
It actually is not a good spot for a Christmas tree.
No.
With the
And-
road salt and everything. too.
Yeah.
Well, the one on the fire station.
Yeah, that one, it's a beautiful tree, and it looks very nice when it's lit up, but it's not a good spot,
No, yes, yeah, for
Or-
the ceremony,
for a ceremony, for a Christmas tree.
for the parking.
Yeah. Something to think of for the new town hall.
Yes.
I think the trees have got to go.
We put a large tube in the ground. I have a tree in Biddeford that we're gonna end up cutting.
Yeah.
It's almost as big as that one, you'd have to hire a crane. I know where we can get a low bed, but I don't know where we can get a crane.
The crane guy here in Arundel, I just don't know if he's willing to donate all the
Kraus will do it.
services. What's that?
Kraus will do it.
Yeah. Yes?
Can I make a,
Sure.
I would just suggest if you find that the tree has to go, I wouldn't just do it. I would put something in the arrow. You don't want people going by and just finding it gone. Because I really think the community saying we have is here. And to just do that without letting folks know what's going on, and maybe have a plan that if I'll make a commitment at the new town hall that we put one in, and maybe spend some money for a good sized one.
Certainly.
Or if whoever you were saying, Jason, might donate, if you knew that beforehand, so you could say that to the people, so there was a plan, just not to do it.
You might want to take a look at it before we.
They are in rough shape. I looked at them Saturday when I went by over the town. I mean, I would say the one by the generator.
Oh, the generator, that one.
Yeah, get that thing out of there.
Yeah.
That's just a pine.
But the other one,
Roger, cut in here.
Do you have Eleanor?
Yeah,
on
Roger
there?
will
Do
do
you?
the cutting. Yeah.
I have her on Facebook.
Yeah.
If we take that memorial tree down,
Yep.
I would think we should put something in its place in the possibility that we don't get a town hall in the very near future. We probably shouldn't be discarding that tree completely.
Oh, that's true.
We
We
can
could
move
put
it.
something there that would then be moved if we,
Yeah,
I would say a different location or something.
yeah, whatever, we ought to have something in its place.
I have Eleanor on Facebook. I've made a note. I'll send her a message and see if, let her know what's going going on and see if she has any objections, then I'll let her know.
I just want to pass this for now, other than the
Yeah, I just
small one.
bring it to your attention, and Roger's only concern is if it gets cut, it's before July 1st, because then it gets really hot. In July, but I'll bring this back to you on May 27th, see if we can't muster some support and come up with some other options of what to do when those trees are gone.
Okay, I have a memo from Superintendent Dolph on the
Revolving renovation fund.
yes.
It's right there,
Yeah.
right in your left hand, put your hand out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, wake up, boy. And drawing this, this is secret ballot on this one, is that right?
It is,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it's actually, there's gonna be two questions on the ballot. The first question is the budget validation
Yeah.
vote, and then the second one, I believe, is revolving renovation fund.
Okay.
So this will be question 2 on their ballot. So we have 3 ballots, actually.
And we have Jack Reitz wrote a letter that he wanted to have read in the record with respect to Mrs. Hall's comments as well regarding our board, the board's lending some support for this passage of this particular article. You want to read it, or you want me to?
I can read it for
Okay.
you, Mr. Chair. This is to Arundel Selectmen from Jack Reed, subject referendum, RSU 21 revolving renovation funds, June 10th, 2014. Sirs, purpose of this letter is to request your explicit support for voter approval of this referendum item. As you know, voter approval of this funding was rejected in all 3 communities last January. The reasons are diverse, but primarily were tied to concurrent rejection of the accompanying proposed $75 million bonding of the 3 school renovation projects. In any event, in January, voters rejected bonding of state-offered funds totaling some $1.8 million. This vote will be a second district-wide attempt to obtain voter approval without the accompanying motion $75 million brought. The borrowing terms are $1.8 million, 30% grant, $1.3 million interest-free, repayable over 10 years. Arundel's share is about 10% of the total, $126,000 spread over 10 years, barely measurable on our mill rate. As Arundel's needs-based share, Mildred L. Day School will receive well over $500,000 in much-needed life safety and ADA compliance improvements at a cost of only $12,600 annually over 10 years. The first year cost is already incorporated into the RSU 21 2014-15 operating budget. All funds must be fully expended by July 31st, 2015. I am requesting that the Selectmen, using the forthcoming Arrow newsletter, recommend approval of this referendum item. This is a one-time opportunity and an extraordinarily good investment in the safety of Arundel's children. Thank you, Jack Reeves, RSU 21 Facilities Committee member.
When's the next arrow?
This week. If we get it,
It's a couple of
been
things here.
compiled, and there's a few items that have been waiting for board approval to get that first page finished. So we've got 3 pages done, and the rest will be compiled as soon as Sim has some spare time, and we'll start copying away. So I guess it's for the board to dispose with this request.
Certainly support the request. I'm not sure, can we, because this is not our, this is from the RSU, so we can't recommend on the ballot, but we certainly can voice our opinion here, and maybe in the arrow, I mean, if the rest of the board agrees, but at least in the arrow, we can say that we recommend passage of this. I guess I'll make a motion as such.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's made and seconded, I guess, to Is there gonna be an article and arrow on this? Is that-
It'll tell both the election dates, and I will do a simple blurb that says the Board of Selectmen of the town of Arundel, if it's voted upon, recommend the passage of the revolving renovation loan funds.
Can we put in there that we're going to be receiving over $500,000 in much-needed life safety and ADA compliance improvements at a cost of only $126,000?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's,
Find out from Jack if he can plagiarize his letter.
yeah.
I think that's expressly implied.
He probably wouldn't mind.
He wouldn't mind. He wouldn't mind at all.
Or at least part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can, part of it, that part about either as Arundel's share.
So a motion been made and seconded to include within that article the selectmen's recommendation for passage of the article. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Excellent.
Okay, so we're passing on the public hearing on the parking ordinance at this point, or do you want to set it for, you said the 27th?
No, it will be the 9th now, so we don't need to set that public
Okay.
hearing date. I'll have time for the next meeting.
Okay, and these,
M is also not needed until the next meeting, because we've discussed that, and it's not time to move forward yet.
item N, there's a request from the town manager to expend $2,000 from the transfer station capital equipment reserve account for unanticipated equipment repairs. The balance of this account currently stands at $9,204. Apparently we got a compactor that,
Yeah, power unit on the compactor went. I'm asking for this authorization, and I'm going to, I've already got a call into Stu Axelrod, who is my contact at Pine Tree Waste. They're trying to find out why nobody at Town Hall was informed of this. Typically, they'll let us know that there's a repair to be made, so something like this can be brought to the board prior to the repairs being made. That didn't happen, so they're trying to figure out where that lack of communication occurred. But in the event that they can, I've asked to see the documentation in regards to that power unit, what was wrong with the old power unit, and in the event that it was a necessity, then I'll move forward with paying it if the board authorizes this transfer. But as of this point, we got the invoice on Friday, and I haven't heard back from anyone at Pine Tree since we put the call in to say why wasn't this approved ahead of time. We made it very clear to them that this isn't a budgeted item, we don't have these funds, we can't expend these funds without prior authorization. And so that's where I'm looking for the paper trail and the paperwork, and to speak with someone who can tell me why this happened.
whose equipment?
We own the equipment.
We own the equipment.
But they repair it.
Okay.
And if when I first got here, there was an issue like this, but it was brought to our attention ahead of time, and it was electric motor that needed replacement, and the electric motor was replaced at a much lower cost than what we were being proposed from Pine Tree's contractors. So I want to know exactly what the chain of that conversation was to find out why it wasn't brought to our attention. And see if there's other alternatives, but worst case scenario, it will be a $2,000 repair.
And has it already been done?
It had been done, it's back up and running.
So is there any, that's a specific account for the transfer station?
Yes, it is.
So is there, are we gonna replenish that at some point in time to get that, or do you feel the need to get it back up to around $9,000?
I don't believe that when the transfer station was owned and operated by the town, it seems that there were a lot more expenses associated with that. At this point in time, I don't think there's any pressing need to replenish that $2,000, but Roger and I are gonna have a conversation about, and with Stu, who's the operator, assuming they get the next extension, I wanna know exactly what kind of repairs of this nature we can expect, so if we do need to replenish that, we can ask for it at town meeting. But it hasn't been something that we've been doing, because in the 3 years that I've been here now, I believe we've expended about $900 repairing the equipment at the transfer station.
Usually that, those types of things, when they go, they're not cheap, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, speaking of Roger, from time to time, the next big outlay to be expected is to replace cans that are down there. Those roll-on, roll-off dumpsters run at about $6,000 a piece. The dumpsters that are there are in functional shape, so there's no pressing need to change those, but that's a plan that Roger and I needed to discuss to see over the next 5 years what we can expect to have to spend so that we can have warrant articles at town meeting should that need to be replenished. Excuse me.
So those dumpsters, all those dumpsters that are there, those big dumpsters, those are ours, we own
Those
them?
are ours. Yeah, and they haul our equipment.
What would the cost be to lease from Pine Tree for the cans?
That's another option.
Maybe that's something, because we have one more year left with their contract, right?
Exactly.
Maybe that's something we can discuss at the next.
Yeah, and as we move forward in getting ready for preparing an RFP for the next operator of the transfer station, there are other items that need to be considered as well. So in the drafting of that RFP, I'm going to take a lot of input from the board and from residents as to what they'd like to see differently at the transfer station. I can tell you I've had preliminary discussions with Stu about curbside pickup, and the town of Arundel at this point, in my opinion, can't afford to do that. Unless there is a chargeback available where people who aren't recycling are being charged at the curbside for similar to what's going on at the transfer station where you pay by the bag or by the pound. Unless there's some sort of system implemented, it would be ballpark figures I've heard $250,000 to $300,000 a year to collect the trash in Arundel. If we were to go the route of the city of Bedford and do the recycling bins, the cans, you're looking at approximately another $200,000 outlay just to purchase the inventory to get those cans out on the street and up and running. So, as of any conversation I've had with Stu and with most other operators of waste disposal companies, the way we're operating in Arundel right now is the most efficient way.
It's a community center.
Right.
You see everybody.
And you know what? It's amazing to say, but
Where you meet your neighbors.
yeah,
That's right.
you're good.
You cut the tree, you lose the.
This whole town's going out.
Well, the tree chipped up in the tipping area.
New York City.
That's where you go when you're running for office.
That's right. That's where we
Spend all day there.
So there will be conversations to be had in regards to this, but in the interest of the issue at hand, I request authorization to expend that $2,000 if necessary.
What does Roger have any idea about perhaps what it might have cost us if this hadn't been done by them?
No, because we don't know the extent of what was done or what was the problem.
What is that invoice for?
The invoice is for the monthly expense, which is $6,000, and then the equipment repair, compactor repair, and the
319.
replacement of the power unit.
That was done on 319.
Yeah, and this is, like I said, this came to our attention, what was Friday, the 9th? So we're trying to figure out who knew what when and why we weren't informed of it. And once again, we won't receive a late fee until May 31st, so if the board would like to table this until I have more information, that'll be acceptable as well.
Well, I mean, we're gonna pay it no matter.
I was gonna say, it's not a bill that we're not gonna pay.
The work's already been done, you need to pay it.
Absolutely.
I think I'd make the motion that we pay the $2,000 after you get the paper trail and get the information on what really happened and took place.
Second that motion.
Okay, motion made second to approve the expenditure of $2,000 from the transfer station capital equipment reserve account to pay the equipment repair subject to the town manager's satisfaction that the costs and expenses are justified. That it?
Makes sense.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, treasurer's report, everybody's got the report here,
To accept.
materials?
Dan, move to accept.
Second?
Yeah.
Any questions, comments, anybody have?
The fire department has got a couple of accounts that seem to be a lot over.
Yes, and those may, chief may end up coming to you to request some of those expenditures be made through the fire department capital reserve. We're waiting till we get closer to the end of the year, because if we don't need to transfer them, but we won't, in order to keep those monies in the reserve, because once we transfer them, if we don't use them, they go to the general fund.
And under general assistance, I mean, when you have overtime, is her overtime to do with general assistance, or does it have to do with other?
It has to do with general assistance, it has to do with some of her training and travel, as well as Secret Santa and the Project Pilgrim, the Thanksgiving baskets.
All right. Those are my questions.
Anybody else have any questions? Somebody move to accept the report? Yeah? Do a second?
I second.
All in favor then?
We can dispose of the other items as well if we'd like before we go into executive session.
We could do that. Okay, review, approve at the both payroll and AP warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And we have town manager's request to reschedule our July 28th meeting to either the 22nd or August 4th.
If I was gonna pull a Barry here and say, I'm gonna give you guys a night off in July, Selectmen don't get many nights off. Barry and Kenny won't like to do that. To be honest with you, my family will be in Lake George, New York, and I'd like to be there with them. Unfortunately, it's only 4 hours there and 4 hours back.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
Take your motorcycle, it's a great ride.
Problem is, I don't have a toy hauler. I can't get the motorcycle in the trailer. So if the board doesn't want to do that, I'll ask Simone to respectfully present the meeting and do just the payroll and AP warrants. But this will not be a habit, much to my daughter's chagrin. She wanted me to do the same thing for the meeting on the 27th because it's the first ever band concert. And I said, sorry, honey, my mom's going to record it. But if the board is so inclined, I will do similar to what we do at Christmas time and just sign the AP and payroll warrants in that meeting and get you out of here.
So that will just be a meeting for,
Just to sign the payroll and AP. Payroll can be signed, AP can't. The accounts payable warrant has to be signed by the full board or a quorum of the board.
Yeah.
So it could even be done on the Friday afternoon previous, so 25th, July 25th, we could meet at 4 o'clock at Town Hall if everybody can make it to just sign the payables warrant.
yeah, I'd rather not do it on a Friday, but.
Any day but the week of the 28th.
So, in the summer, right? But 21st looks all right to me.
Okay, is that a Monday?
That is a Monday.
Monday before the regular.
Yes.
We're gonna make that, what, at 4 o'clock?
We can most certainly do that.
What time?
That might be too, well, I want to make sure, I mean,
We can do it at regular.
Yeah, okay, that's
We
fine.
can do it at 7 o'clock if you want and just have.
We're just gonna sign the warrants, that's it.
Just gonna sign the warrants.
No, we don't do this.
At 5 o'clock.
Can anybody get it earlier than 7?
I certainly can.
Okay.
You guys are-
I can.
Five-ish?
You wanna say 5:30 or something?
Okay,
Is that all right?
Yeah.
on the 21st?
Yep.
21st. Okay.
Excellent.
Want to do it here or at Town Hall?
We do it right at Town Hall. Thank Thank you very much.
Okay. Now I'll entertain a motion to go to executive session.
Take care.
MRS 405.6C, 405.6A. First to discuss a real estate matter, and second discussing personnel matter.
So move.
All in favor?